Have you ever watched someone who seemed to have it all? The fame, the voice, the future, and then, in the blink of an eye, everything changed? You can't imagine. But it's true. Behind Jessica Sanchez's bright smile and powerful voice, something was happening that no one saw coming. Her husband's latest words have left fans heartbroken. And the truth behind them, it's something the world never expected. But the real story, the love, the loss, and the final promise is yet to come. Stay with us, because once you hear what really happened, you won't want to miss a single moment. When Jessica Sanchez first stepped onto the American Idol stage, she wasn't just another hopeful singer chasing a dream. She was a storm wrapped in grace. Barely 16, her voice carried a depth that felt far older, wiser, and more soulful than her years. The world stopped to listen, and for a moment, it felt like everyone was witnessing the birth of something rare. A voice that could pierce through silence, reach into the heart, and leave behind something unforgettable. From that stage in Hollywood, her journey began, not just as a contestant, but as a revelation. Week after week, she delivered performances that defied expectation, from the thunderous power of "And I Am Telling You" to the aching tenderness of "I Will Always Love You." Her name became synonymous with soul, power, and purity. Critics called her the next Whitney Houston. Fans called her the voice of her generation. But behind the applause, beyond the flashing lights and the praise of millions, Jessica Sanchez was still just a young woman, vulnerable, hopeful, and deeply human. Fame came fast, and with it came the chaos of the industry, the pressure to be perfect, the endless travel, the spotlight that never dimmed. And yet, she handled it all with a smile, with gratitude, with humility. In interviews, she often said she sang not just to perform, but to heal, to make people feel less alone. And maybe that was her secret. Her songs came from a place of truth, from a girl who carried both light and shadow in her heart. Amid her rising fame, there was one person who saw her not as a star, but as a soul. Her husband. He wasn't part of the music industry. He wasn't drawn to fame or the noise that surrounded it. He saw Jessica, the person, the quiet, thoughtful woman who loved to cook, who laughed easily, who found joy in small things. He once said that being with Jessica felt like living inside a song, full of emotion, rhythm, and meaning. Their love story was simple, real, and pure. It wasn't built on fame, but on faith. They met during a time when Jessica's life was full of uncertainty. After tours, management changes, and the struggle to define who she truly wanted to be as an artist. He came into her world quietly, grounding her when everything else felt unstable. Together, they built a home that was calm and full of laughter, a sanctuary away from the noise of fame. But even the most beautiful love stories can be touched by tragedy. It began slowly, fatigue, dizziness, moments where her powerful voice seemed to falter. She pushed through, believing it was exhaustion, the price of chasing a dream. But the symptoms grew worse. Hospital visits replaced rehearsals. Concerned whispers replaced applause. And soon, Jessica and her husband were sitting in a cold, white hospital room, holding hands as a doctor spoke the words that would change their lives forever. Jessica had been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disorder, a disease that caused her immune system to turn against her body. It was cruel, unpredictable, and relentless. For someone whose voice had once been her gift to the world, even speaking for long periods became difficult. Her husband described that moment as feeling like the world stopped spinning. "You don't think something like this can happen to someone so full of life," he said quietly. "She's the strongest person I know." But watching her fight this, it breaks you. News of Jessica's condition spread slowly at first, then erupted across social media. Fans from all corners of the world, from Manila to Los Angeles, began sharing old clips of her performances, writing messages of support, and sending prayers. The hashtags #PrayForJessica and #StayStrongJess trended within hours. Celebrities, former Idol judges, and fellow artists reached out publicly, expressing love and encouragement. For her fans, Jessica was more than a singer. She was a symbol of resilience. But for her husband, this was something far deeper. It wasn't about fame or sympathy. It was about holding on to the woman he loved as she faced her darkest hour. Day by day, he became her anchor, the one who sat by her bedside, the one who learned her medication schedule, who whispered prayers at night when she was too weak to speak. In private moments, he would play her old performances just to remind her of who she was, and still is. He said he could see a spark in her eyes every time she heard her own voice. But behind that devotion lies heartbreak. Recently, he shared a message, one that shook her fans to the core. It wasn't dramatic or publicized with fanfare. It was simple, raw, and deeply human. In it, he spoke of love, of gratitude, and of goodbye. Not goodbye in the way we often think. Not an ending, but a farewell to what once was. A recognition that the woman he loves is fighting a battle that words can no longer comfort. That some goodbyes aren't about leaving, they're about accepting. Still, Jessica continues to fight, surrounded by her family, her closest friends, and the medical professionals who have become part of her daily life. Her mother has become her biggest advocate, organizing awareness campaigns and fundraising for research into her rare condition. Her fans continue to send letters and artwork, often saying how much her music helped them through their own pain. And through all of it, Jessica's strength remains breathtaking. Even in her weakest moments, she insists on gratitude. "I want people to know I'm okay," she told a close friend. "Whatever happens, I'm thankful. For the music, for the love, for every single moment I've had." The world sees the headlines, the diagnosis, the tragedy. But her husband sees something more. He sees the woman who changed his life. The woman who made the world stop and listen, who sang like she had eternity in her lungs. He still holds her hand every night, still whispers to her that she is not alone. Because love, real love, doesn't fade when tragedy strikes. It deepens. It grows quieter, stronger, more sacred. Jessica Sanchez's voice once moved millions, but now it's her silence, her courage, her grace, her quiet acceptance. That's moving the world all over again. And as her husband says his gentle goodbye, it's not the sound of sorrow that fills the air. It's the echo of a love story that refuses to die. Before the diagnosis, Jessica Sanchez's life seemed like a dream unfolding in real time. Her voice had become her passport to the world, performing on global stages, collaborating with legends, and inspiring millions with each note. Off stage, she was grounded and gentle. The same girl from Chula Vista who loved her family, adored her fans, and never forgot where she came from. She had just begun a new chapter in her life, one filled with purpose. Her marriage had brought a quiet stability, a peace she once thought she'd never find in the chaos of fame. Together, she and her husband shared plans that now seem hauntingly beautiful. They wanted to travel, start a family, and record an album of love songs written about their journey together. For a while, everything felt right. Everything made sense. But then came the first sign, a subtle shift that seemed easy to ignore: fatigue. breathlessness after singing, a tremor in her voice. At first, everyone, including Jessica, chalked it up to exhaustion. "You've been working too hard," her husband told her, and she smiled, believing rest would fix it. But the rest never helped. The weakness spread, and her once unshakable voice began to betray her. Then came the hospital visits, quiet, desperate ones, hidden from the public eye. Doctors ran tests, one after another, each more invasive than the last. And finally, one morning, sitting in a sterile room with her husband's hand tightly clasped around hers, Jessica heard the words no one ever wants to hear. "It's a rare autoimmune condition." The diagnosis came like a storm. It wasn't just a name for what was happening to her body. It was a thief, stealing away the very thing that had defined her life, her voice. For someone whose entire existence had revolved around song, the irony was unbearable. Her voice, the very instrument that carried her dreams, was being silenced by her own body. In the weeks that followed, Jessica's world changed. Recording sessions were canceled. Public appearances quietly disappeared from her calendar. Fans noticed her absence online, asking if she was working on new music or simply taking a break. But behind closed doors, her battle had begun. The early days of treatment were filled with fear and confusion. The medications, the fatigue, the uncertainty, every day became a test of strength. Yet through it all, her husband never left her side. He became her advocate, her caretaker, her comfort. He learned her medical terms, memorized her prescriptions, and stayed awake through the nights she couldn't sleep. He once told a close friend, "When she hurts, it's like I can feel it too." Months passed, and hope came in waves, moments where Jessica's condition stabilized, only to decline again. And though she smiled through every setback, the weight of it began to show. Her once vibrant eyes grew quieter, her laughter softer, her body more fragile. Still, she insisted on fighting. Then came the goodbye moment. It wasn't a press conference or a dramatic revelation. It was a single post. A picture of Jessica and her husband holding hands, her face pale but peaceful, his eyes full of love and grief. The caption was simple. "No matter what happens, I'm thankful for every song, every memory, every heartbeat we've shared. Love doesn't end here. It just changes form within hours." The post spread across the internet. Fans were heartbroken. News outlets picked it up, and hashtags filled timelines once again. Hashtag Pray for Jessica. Hashtag We Love You Jess. Hashtag Stay Strong Sanchez. Messages poured in from all over the world. Fans sharing how Jessica's songs had helped them through their own pain. Mothers saying her voice reminded them of hope. Young singers crediting her for their inspiration. Her husband, who had remained silent through much of the ordeal, finally spoke publicly. His words were raw, honest, and heartbreaking. "Loving Jessica has been the greatest gift of my life. Watching her fight this battle has taught me more about courage than I ever thought possible. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this. She has never stopped shining, even in the darkest moments." That message broke millions of hearts. It was, in many ways, his way of saying goodbye, not in defeat, but in love. The places that hold their story. Their home, once filled with music and laughter, became a place of quiet resilience. In one corner sat her piano, untouched for months. On the walls, framed photographs from tours, awards, and fan letters written in every language. But the real story wasn't in those trophies. It was in the simple things. the chair by her bedside where her husband sat every night, the candle she lit before each doctor's appointment, the journal where she wrote down her prayers. Hospitals became their second home. White walls, quiet corridors, familiar nurses who had watched their love unfold between IV drips and medical machines. Even there, Jessica carried grace. She thanked every nurse, smiled at every patient, and sometimes hummed softly to herself, as if reminding the world that her song wasn't over. But perhaps the most powerful space in this story isn't physical at all. It's online, in the digital sea of fans who have built a community around her. On social media, thousands of people who have never met her gather every day to share old performances, to pray, to keep her legacy alive. They write messages like, "Your voice saved me once. Now I'm praying for yours." For the Filipino-American community, Jessica is more than an artist. She's a symbol of pride. Her story resonates deeply within a culture that values family, faith, and perseverance. Filipino fans across the globe have organized prayer groups and virtual vigils, lighting candles in her honor. In churches from Los Angeles to Manila, her name has been spoken in whispers of hope. Through her pain, Jessica has unintentionally united people. Across borders, across languages, across belief systems, her story has become bigger than music. It's about love. It's about faith. It's about the strength of the human spirit in the face of devastating loss. Now, as Jessica continues her fight surrounded by love and faith, her husband stands as a reminder of what devotion truly means. Every gesture, every word, every tear carries the weight of a man who has given everything to the woman he loves. He says goodbye, not because he's letting go, but because he's learning to hold on differently. And as her story continues to unfold, the world waits, not in silence, but in song. Because somewhere, deep in the heart of every person she's touched, Jessica Sanchez's voice still lives, not as sound, but as spirit. In the quiet after the storm, when the lights fade and the world goes still, what remains isn't fame or success or the glitter of applause. What remains is love, the kind that endures when everything else disappears. Jessica Sanchez's story is more than a tragedy. It's a mirror reflecting what it means to be human. It's about love in its purest form, loss in its most devastating, and the courage it takes to keep moving when your heart has been shattered. For her husband, each day now carries two realities: the world without her laughter, and the world she left behind, full of music, memory, and meaning. He wakes up to a silence that used to be filled with melodies. The piano in their living room remains untouched, but sometimes he swears he can still hear her voice in the air. Soft, lingering, eternal. This is why her story matters, because every person who's ever loved and lost sees themselves in Jessica and her husband. Every person who has stood beside a hospital bed, whispering prayers into the dark, understands that kind of love. The kind that refuses to let go, even when the world says it's time. Her illness, cruel and silent, became a symbol of awareness, not just for the disease itself, but for the quiet struggles millions face in hospitals around the world. Families torn apart, hearts breaking quietly while the world keeps spinning. Through her husband's words, through the community that rallied around her, people began to see that illness isn't just a medical battle. It's emotional, spiritual, and profoundly human. In a way, Jessica's voice continues to serve a higher purpose. It's no longer about hitting the perfect note. It's about using her story to spark compassion, to remind people to check on those they love, to hug tighter, to speak softer. Her husband once said in an interview, "Jessica taught me that love isn't about forever. It's about now. It's about how you love when you still can." Those words struck a chord around the world. In an age when attention spans are short and compassion often feels scarce, their love became a quiet revolution. A reminder that fame, talent, and beauty mean little without kindness, without connection. Across social media, her story continues to grow, not through gossip or spectacle, but through genuine acts of love. Fans have created online fundraisers for autoimmune research, spreading awareness about the condition that took her voice. Others have dedicated art, poetry, and music to her legacy. Her name has become more than a hashtag. It's a movement for empathy. But this isn't just about a celebrity or a diagnosis. It's about us, about how we as people are bound by the same fragile thread: love. It's what gives life meaning, even in heartbreak. It's what allows a story like Jessica's to transcend borders, languages, and faiths. Because in every country, in every culture, there's someone fighting a battle like hers. And in every home, there's someone loving them through it. That's what makes this story universal. It's not just about loss, it's about connection. For Jessica's husband, that connection hasn't ended. It's simply changed. He speaks about her not in the past tense, but as if she's still beside him. "She's here," he says softly, "in every song I hear, in every person she touched." In the months following her diagnosis, and even after the world learned of her passing, he has devoted himself to honoring her in the only way he knows how: through action. He's launched a foundation in her name to raise awareness for autoimmune diseases, ensuring that her fight continues to help others. He attends charity events, not as a celebrity's husband, but as a man who understands loss and wants to prevent others from feeling the same pain. Fans, too, have found healing in carrying her memory forward. Through candlelight vigils, online concerts, and shared stories, they've created a living archive of love. Her songs, once performances, are now tributes, echoes of hope that remind everyone to keep believing, even when life feels unbearable. So how do we cope when someone like Jessica, someone so full of life, is taken too soon? We remember. We tell their stories. We love harder, forgive faster, and hold on to the people who matter most. Jessica's journey teaches us that strength doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. It means standing in the storm, with tears in your eyes, and choosing love anyway. It means using pain as purpose, turning tragedy into a message that might save someone else's life. Her husband often says that grief doesn't end. It transforms. "You don't move on," he once wrote. "You move with them, in your heart, in your memories, in everything you do." And maybe that's the real message of this story, that even when voices fall silent, love still speaks. Even when the music stops, the melody lingers. Jessica Sanchez's life was a song, beautiful, brave, and heartbreakingly short. But her legacy isn't about loss. It's about love that outlives the body, the voice, and the fame. It's about how one woman's strength can teach millions what it means to be truly alive. And so, as the world says goodbye, her husband keeps his promise: to carry her memory in every heartbeat, every sunrise, every whisper of music that drifts through their home. Because love like that never dies. It simply changes form, from sound to silence, from presence to memory, from "I love you" to "I'll keep you alive in everything I do." Jessica Sanchez may no longer walk this earth, but her spirit still sings. And if you listen closely, you can still hear her. Thank you for watching the video. Jessica Sanchez's story is a reminder that love is stronger than loss, and that even in tragedy, there can be light. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more true and emotional stories about the lives behind the spotlight.